Hello all, I'm Marin. Welcome to another reading vlog and welcome to my next round of 1 week, 1 genre, where I use a random spinner wheel to determine what genre of books I'm going to be reading for the next week. I am down to 4 remaining genres on my wheel. I will link you to the last episode that I did of this series up in the card so you can go back and watch that. I started with 8. We're halfway through and we're gonna see what genre I'm going to be reading this week. So the ones that I have left are contemporary, mystery thriller, historical, and fantasy. So without further ado, let me screen record and we're gonna see what's next. Okay. It is going to be historical. So I already have the TBR for this figured out. I did all of the TBRs for these 1 week, 1 genres at the end of 2025 because I was really trying to fit books that I physically owned onto the TBRs. So let me grab them and we'll talk about them. Okay, these are the 3 books that I have already selected for this TBR. 2 of them were 2024 purchases that I should have read in 2025, and one of them was a 2025 purchase that I did not read. So obviously these are helping me check off some goals that I have. The first book though that I'm going to read is going to be The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. I know this one has like some fantastical elements with like the seance idea. I have not read anything by this author. I know a lot of people have liked her work, but I have not read anything by her, so this will be the first one. Let's read the synopsis and get reading. So this one says, 1873. At an abandoned chateau on the outskirts of Paris, a dark seance is about to take place, led by acclaimed spiritualist Vaudeline Diallier, I don't know. Anyway, Vaudeline. Known worldwide for her talent in conjuring the spirits of murder victims to ascertain the identities of the people who killed them, she is highly sought after by widows and investigators alike. Lena Wicks has come to Paris to find answers about her sister's death, but to do so, she must embrace the unknown and overcome her own logic-driven bias against the occult. When Vaudeline is beckoned to England to solve a high-profile murder, Lena accompanies her as an understudy. But as the women team up with the powerful men of London's exclusive Seance Society to solve the mystery, they begin to suspect that they are not merely out to solve a crime, but perhaps become entangled in one themselves. So, okay, that's going to be book 1. It sounds really interesting, so let's get reading. Okay, y'all, I have actually finished The London Seance Society, and I am going to give this 4 stars. I quite enjoyed this. Now, the ratings of this are not super high. They're not, like, terrible, but they're not super high, and I was kind of reading through some things to see what it is about it that people aren't necessarily liking. And while I can understand their point of view, for me, the historical setting of this really shone through the writing. She did a lot of research to make it feel realistic. In fact, there's like a bibliography at the back, which does not always happen with historical fictions, and she added some stuff that kind of just brought the time period to life, I guess would be a way of putting it. So she has, let me see if I can find one of them. So she has a pretty substantial author's note, but then she goes into things like mourning customs, and she'll explain that. She added some like recipes that you would see at like Victorian funerals. She really, so here's like how to make a trick candle, which is what a lot of frauds would use when they were hosting seances to make people believe that they are legit. So you can tell that she did a lot of research on this, which I really enjoyed and is something I appreciate seeing in historical fiction. Now, obviously this has a fantastical element with the seances. The scenes that she wrote describing the seances though were really well done, in my opinion. Really brought them to life and set the mood really well. I did enjoy the characters, although I never fully connected with them. So this book does have 2 POVs. The main POV is Lena, Lena is the one mentioned in the synopsis who is trying to figure out what happened to her sister and how her sister died. So she becomes an apprentice to someone who does seances. Her name is Vaudeline, and she's trying to learn like how to do them so that she can potentially contact her sister. Although Lena is very science minded, and so she doesn't believe that seances are like legit. So that's kind of her backstory, I guess. And then we have a man whose name is Mr. Morley. He is the vice president of the London Seance Society, which is an all-men's seance club. And he is investigating the death of one of his co-workers, or I should say the president of the society, who passed away on the same day that Lena's sister passed away. So he asks Vaudeline to come back to London to basically solve his death. So that's kind of the setup of this. There are some mystery elements woven through here as we work to figure out what happened to Lena's sister, whose name is Evie. And then there is a lot of discussion of false seances versus like real legitimate ones. So I really liked this. I don't know, I just really felt like the vibes of this were really great. I enjoyed the writing. So my only complaint would be that I didn't connect really with the characters, but I felt like overall this was a good story. So I would recommend it if you are at all interested in it, and give it a read. I know people have liked her other book, which is The Lost Apothecary, and then she has this one right here as well, which is a newer one, The Amalfi Curse, right? The Amalfi Curse. So I do want to check that one out because I did really enjoy this. So I am giving it 4 stars, as I already mentioned. This was a pretty solid start to the vlog. And now let's chat about the one that I'm going to be reading next. And that one is going to be All We Were Promised by Ashton Lattimore. So let me go ahead and read the synopsis for this, and then we'll get into it. So this one says, Philadelphia, 1837. When Charlotte escaped from the crumbling White Oaks plantation down south, she'd expected freedom to feel different from her former life as an enslaved housemaid. After all, Philadelphia is supposed to be the birthplace of American liberty. Instead, she's locked away playing servant to her white passing father as they both attempt to hide their identities from slave catchers who would destroy their new lives. Longing to break away, Charlotte befriends Nell, a budding abolitionist from one of Philadelphia's wealthiest black families. Just as Charlotte starts to envision a future, a familiar face from her past reappears. Evie, her friend from White Oaks, has been brought to the city by the plantation mistress, and she's desperate to escape. But as Charlotte and Nell conspire to rescue her in a city engulfed by race riots and attacks on abolitionists, they soon discover that fighting for Evie's freedom may cost them their own. So 3 POVs in this one, and we'll see what I think. So let's get reading. This one is following 3 black women in 1837 Philadelphia. One of them is an escaped slave who is living, I guess, on the down low, for lack of a better word, pretending to be a servant for her white passing father. So that's Charlotte. Then we have Nell. Nell was born into wealth. So she is a black woman who has always been free. Her family has always been free. They are pretty high society in Philadelphia. So we have her. And then we have Evie. Evie is a current slave who Charlotte knew from her time on the plantation. And at this point in the story, which we are on, and at this point in the story, which is chapter 15, page 128, Evie has asked for help escaping her mistress. And Charlotte and Nell are working out how to potentially make that happen. So that's kind of the setup. The one thing I'm noticing about this book is it's slow. It's slow. I've been reading it for like a day and a half, and I'm only on page 128. I would not say that the writing is particularly engaging, and it's taking a long time to get into the story and the overall gist of trying to help Evie out. Like, they keep talking about putting plans in place, and it's been months. Okay, so Evie has been in Philadelphia for 4 months at least at this point, and they still are like just now hashing out a plan. So it's just very slow moving. And I do understand that the reality of trying to help runaway slaves probably took quite a lot of planning, but there's been a lot of dithering in this book, a lot of focus on dressmaking, which Charlotte is a seamstress, so I get that. There has been a little bit of like conflict between Charlotte and her white passing father and parties. And I feel like it's just taking a very long time to get anywhere. So the audio is perfectly well narrated, but I'm honestly a little bored with it at this point, and I'm looking forward to the plot like getting moving, because so far this has just been a bit of a slog, and I would not say I'm having the best time with it. So my hope is to actually get this finished today, but we're gonna have to just see how it goes, because like I said, this is quite slow moving. I'm not even 50% of the way through. I think Goodreads has me at like 35%. Definitely not my favorite so far. I am enjoying the idea of this, and definitely, as I mentioned with the last book, there has been quite a bit of research that went into this one, at least just by taking a glance at like the author's note, but it's just not my favorite right now. So I'm hoping that I can just put my headphones in, do a little multitasking, and get this book done today, because I am not really having the best time with it, so I just kind of want to get it finished. So obviously there is still a lot of this book left, so my opinion can obviously change drastically, but I'm gonna need the action to pick up in order to give this much of a high rating at all. So with my next update, the book will be done, but at the 35% mark, it's definitely a slog. I'm finding that pretty disappointing. So anyway, there you go. That's a lackluster update, but let's hope the next one goes better. Okay, I have finished All We Were Promised, and my opinion on this still remains. This was just a slog to get through from beginning to end. I felt zero connection to any of the characters, and even when there were more action-filled scenes at the end, I did not ever find myself engaged with the story. I think part of the issue is the writing. I felt like there was far too much telling versus showing. It would reference events in the past rather than like showing them to us. When characters would talk, they were like recounting things that had happened rather than us as a reader actually getting to see the events unfold. And as such, this was just not a very engaging story, I think, is the biggest issue. Now, I do appreciate that a lot of research went into this. The author's note gives some details regarding how Ashton Lattimore found the subject for the story and how she did her research and things. So I did appreciate that, but the writing of this was really lackluster. It is too long. Even though the book itself doesn't have that many pages, there was far too much padding in the story. So the story itself, not counting the author's note, had 347 pages, but it literally felt like this took me ages to get through, as I've already mentioned. And had I not had the audio, I think I would have DNF'd this. There's just extraneous description in here. There were a lot of internal thoughts that were very repetitive that could have been like edited out so that the story flowed a little bit more smoothly. And all in all, I just think that the writing was not good. So I'm only giving this 2 stars. Now, I am an outlier. There are plenty of people who really, really liked this book, but as I was going through and reading reviews after I finished it, and I'd written my own little quick one on Goodreads, I found that my opinion very much matched people's opinions who also gave it 2 stars. So the writing of this was just not good, and I'm hoping that if she writes another book, it will go through some more serious edits, because this one just was too clunky, too long, and I feel like the overall plot got lost in kind of the bad writing. So it just wasn't my favorite, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend it. But again, plenty of people have enjoyed it, so your mileage may vary. If it sounds interesting, go ahead and give it a read. You can probably decide pretty quickly if the writing's going to work for you, because right out the gate, it was very slow. The pacing was off and whatever. I'm gonna stop talking because I'm just getting negative, but not my favorite book. I will be unhauling this, so at least I did get another book of the month book off of my shelf, but it's a bummer that this one did not work for me because it had a lot of potential, and I particularly liked the historical setting of this. I learned a lot, and I would be interested in reading more from this time period, but not by this author. So that's how I'll leave it. Now, my reading this week was a little off because I was trying to finish up a book from Libby, so I didn't actually start this vlog until later in the week. And as such, I am not going to be able to get to Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna, which was supposed to be the third book for this vlog. So hopefully this will come up like in another vlog. Maybe I'll pull it like from my jar or whatever, and I'll get to read it in another vlog, because I was looking forward to this. Even though I didn't love The Nightingale, I wanted to give her another go. I may actually put this on my official summer TBR just to kind of get it read for sure. But yes, this one's not going to get read. This was supposed to be the third book for the vlog, so we're not going to have time for that because it is officially Monday and I need to start the new vlog. So gonna have to pass on this one, unfortunately. Plus it's chunky, so I was really needing about 3 days to get through this. I did not think I was gonna need 3 days to get through this one, but that's what happened. So anyway, that's gonna conclude this vlog. I did have one 4-star, would recommend, really liked this one, and then an unfortunate 2 stars. So they can't all be winners, but at least it's 2 more books off of my physical TBR, and this one was a book that I purchased in 2025 and can now cross off the list. So that's gonna do it for this vlog. A bit of a downer, but I hope you enjoyed nonetheless. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel if you would like to see more from me. If you made it to the end of the video and would like to leave an emoji to show you were here, you can leave me either a flower emoji, or if there's a candle, you can leave me a candle emoji in honor of the cover of this one, which I think is really pretty. And I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.